It was a Saturday morning after Georgia's 16-9 win over Georgia Tech. Wasn't the most impressive thing on earth. I was watching Game Day and listened to Kirk Herbstreit have this to say. He said, Georgia seems to be catching fire right now. And he's talking about how Georgia's playing really well. And I think the context has to be put in place that was after the Tech game, not before it, or sort of, like last couple of weeks when they really did seem like they were catching fire. There didn't seem like a lot of fire in Atlanta at the Tech game, but they won. And they won, I wouldn't say decisively, but it was good enough. But Kirk's opinion was Georgia seems to be catching fire. I'm going to knock down a free bird as we drink here, or as we talk here. I'm going to drink a free bird. It's a free bird Monday on Dawg Post. I think, that there's got to be some hesitation to some degree about the way Georgia played against Tech. At least I think so. Kirby said Monday or Sunday, I'm getting the days confused, that he thought Gunner played a little bit better than he sort of anticipated when we went back and watched the film. It was rough. It was not the kind of performance that would give me a bunch of confidence going into it, but I don't see all the practices. I don't see, I've seen plenty enough of Gunner Stockton to know that this guy can straight up ball out. But the idea of Haynes King or Gunner getting to New York after those performances is not going to happen. Georgia really, all but shut Haynes King down, certainly comparatively speaking to a year ago. But as far as Kirk was talking about catching fire at the right time, I think Notre Dame's really playing very well right now. I watched them play Stanford. Not a great team, but I watched them play Stanford, and they really completely destroyed them. Notre Dame's got to watch it, though. Not playing this week is a rough situation to be in if you're Notre Dame, because you could get knocked out. If BYU wins, either you're going to get knocked out or Alabama gets knocked out, but Alabama's playing. And I don't think the number 2 team from the SEC is going to get knocked out of this thing. So I think if I were Notre Dame, I'd be very worried about that. Indiana, Ohio State, they both have played well the bulk of the season. I don't know if they're sort of catching fire. The difference between Georgia and everybody else is that there was a time in this season where Georgia was not playing well. And, people like me talk about all the time, this team's got to have to improve as the season goes on. Well, have they? That's the question. I think they have. I think Alabama's improved, but I don't think they've improved the way Georgia has. And now we're going to see, though. Now we're going to see. Now we're going to see, was everything just lip service about, improving, so to speak? I don't think it is. I think it seems pretty clear to me that when you take a look back at the Bama game from late September, seems like a long time ago. Keep in mind, since that game, Georgia's played on the road a lot, or away from Athens a lot. They played Tech in Atlanta. They played in Jacksonville. They played in Starkville. They played in Auburn. So whereas the beginning of the season, they only played away from home once, they played away from home a lot from the Alabama game on. And, roughly half of the time. But they have, and they've had some colossal fights in there too. The Texas game, the Ole Miss game, obviously 3 rivalry games. That's 5 in that what was left of the season. There were 8 games left. Roughly 5 of them, so not Charlotte, not State, and not Kentucky, were important, meaningful games, or on the road. And so there's been a lot of fire. And if Kirk's talking about how they've caught fire, I think it's true, except the performance at Georgia Tech for the offense. Now, the defense, on the other hand, we were talking on Dawg Post earlier today, as we do every single day. Someone was asking me in the comments section on YouTube, I wonder if Dean reads these. Yeah, I read them, but I don't, we have paying subscribers on Dawg Post. And they're not there for 15 minutes. They're there all day, and they're asking questions. They've got comments. It's an informed audience, okay? And that's where I spend a lot of my day reading certainly commenting back. So that's the value in Dawg Post, is that you can pay $1 and get 30 days of that right now, where I consistently talk with people. And the one person said, I don't know if Ty Simpson can do what he did in Athens twice. And my response is, I do. I know he can. He can do that again, because I just watch Alabama play. That guy is really good. Ty Simpson, the quarterback at Alabama, he is really good. And he doesn't things have changed for Georgia and Alabama. Alabama's still having a hard time running the football, but unlike in Athens, there's been more pressure on the quarterback, and the offense has not played so hot for Alabama, generally speaking, lately. Now, I don't know that there should be anything other than an expectation that Georgia and Alabama will play a very low-scoring game, because typically, with the exception of last year, the games have been low-scoring. But in conference play, these last 4 games, Alabama has not clipped the 30-point mark. And they have only gone over 30 once in conference play. So I would say if you're Georgia and you get to 30, you win. I will also point out the fact that Georgia doesn't get to 30 against Alabama. It doesn't happen. They've done that once. They won that game. That's it. So, excuse me, I haven't done that. They've done it twice. They won one of those 2 games. That's it. So I would say, barring a very massive explosion of offense from Alabama, which has not happened, if you can get to 30, you'll win the game. Now, the difference with Alabama, I don't know about the difference, but you're not scoring 30 on them either. No one scored 30 on these guys the whole year. Not Tennessee. That's the most explosive team they played. They have been in nail biters 2 of the last 3 games in SEC play, Alabama. And, they had a field goal win over Georgia, a field goal win over Missouri. Both those were road wins. I mean, that was a heck of a win against Georgia. I'm just going to tell you that right now. So, and then the 2-point loss to, they've not played great since leaving the Tennessee, since leaving Neyland Stadium. The Carolina game was rough. The LSU game was rough. They lost to Oklahoma. It was rough. I think they played okay against Auburn, but that was definitely a not rock'em sock'em affair. And the 300-yard performances that Ty Simpson had against Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, we've seen lately. By and large, he's been more 250-yard performances. So there's not a ton to really complain about there. Jam Miller, we'll just see if he plays. Alabama's they've had one 100-yard rusher this season, which was Miller, going for 136 yards against Vanderbilt. I am skeptical he will play in this game. So we'll just see what happens here with Georgia and Bama. I mean, Alabama maybe has not played the way they wanted to. But the 5 game stretch from Wisconsin to Tennessee was very impressive to me. I mean, they played well against Wisconsin. They played pretty well against Georgia, certainly for a half. And then they beat Vanderbilt solidly. That game was not it was a 16-point game. That was not a 16-point game. It was closer than that. They had a tight game with Mizzou. They thoroughly beat Tennessee. And then, look, they were fortunate to get out of South Carolina alive. But they took a loss soon thereafter to Oklahoma. And then, of course, a 17-point lead against Auburn, and then got outplayed from that point forward pretty much 20-10 by an Auburn offense that just could not do hardly anything. That's what Georgia's offense looked like last week. Now, if that's what continues this season, this Saturday, then Alabama will win. Like, if Alabama can limit Georgia the way that Tech did, then, Alabama will win the game. And in terms of catching fire, that narrative will go away. So I don't know if Kirk caught all of the because he could have been traveling. I don't know if he caught any or all of the Tech game, but I would suggest that Georgia's got to play better than they did against Tech in order to beat Alabama and in order to beat everyone moving forward. The good news is for Georgia, generally speaking, they have played better than that most of the season. They just did not play well against Tech offensively, specifically. Defensively was something else. Now that was a very good performance against what was the number one offense in the country 2 weeks ago. So there's that. But for Georgia, there's only been a few teams that have kept these guys under 30 points. Alabama, Auburn, Florida, and Tech. So not a ton. 41 against Tennessee, 35 against Kentucky, 43 against Ole Miss, 41 against Mississippi State, 35 against Texas. So by more than half of the time, they're getting it done on the offensive side of the ball. Austin Peay was below 30. Marshall and Charlotte were not. None of those teams scored more than 10 points. What's playing really well lately, and you can tell, and I think this is the case from the Ole Miss game on, is the Georgia defense. They have played really well. I mean, the first team I don't think has given up over 20 points since the Ole Miss game. So, maybe the first team hasn't given up over 20 points besides Alabama and Tennessee. So, Alabama, Tennessee, and Ole Miss, excuse me. So, 20 points. I mean, if you're holding somebody under 20 points, you're going to win. I mean, that's just all there is to it. I think Georgia's in good position. They do have to play better than they did against Tech in Atlanta, and they probably will. Will it be enough? We'll see.